Imagine this for a moment. It's midnight inside a medieval castle. The fire has burned low, frost crawls along the stone walls, and the temperature outside has plunged far below freezing. Yet people sleep here, night after night, winter after winter, without central heating, without insulation as we know it, without electric blankets or thermostats. And here's the paradox that should make you pause. For many of them, the cold was deadly, but not in the way you think, because castles weren't frozen ruins of misery all the time. They were carefully engineered survival machines. So the real question isn't whether castles were cold, it's whether you, with all your modern comforts stripped away, could survive even one night inside them. Imagine lying awake, breath visible in the dark, stone radiating yesterday's chill, listening to the wind howl through arrow slits like a living thing. Why didn't everyone simply freeze? What tricks kept nobles, soldiers, servants, even prisoners alive when winter tightened its grip? And more unsettling still, why do some of those medieval tricks outperform modern homes during power outages today? To understand this, you have to step into the medieval mindset, a world shaped by scarcity, routine hardship, and an intimate knowledge of nature's cruelty. Castles were not built for comfort. They were built for survival, defense, and endurance, often in exposed locations, hilltops, cliffs, windswept plains, where winter hit hardest. Yet medieval builders learned through brutal trial and error that stone, if used correctly, could be an ally. Thick walls weren't just for stopping arrows. They were thermal batteries, absorbing heat during the day and releasing it slowly through the night. Fires burned constantly in winter, not roaring infernos, but steady, controlled flames, because fuel was precious. People layered their lives the same way they layered their clothing. Linen, wool, fur, human bodies close together, animals sheltered indoors, heat reused and recycled without anyone calling it efficiency. People layered their lives the same way they layered their clothing. Linen, wool, fur, human bodies close together, animals sheltered indoors, heat reused and recycled without anyone calling it efficiency. People layered their lives the same way they layered their clothing. Linen, wool, fur, human bodies close together, animals sheltered indoors, heat reused and recycled without anyone calling it efficiency. Over centuries, knowledge accumulated quietly. What worked stayed, what failed killed people, and that knowledge shaped castles into spaces that could endure cold, not by defeating it, but by slowing it down. Over centuries, knowledge accumulated quietly. What worked stayed, what failed killed people, and that knowledge shaped castles into spaces that could endure cold, not by defeating it, but by slowing it down. Over centuries, knowledge accumulated quietly. What worked stayed, what failed killed people, and that knowledge shaped castles into spaces that could endure cold, not by defeating it, but by slowing it down. Over centuries, knowledge accumulated quietly. What worked stayed, what failed killed people, and that knowledge shaped castles into spaces that could endure cold, not by defeating it, but by slowing it down. Now imagine walking through a castle step by step, noticing what medieval people noticed instinctively. You'd see narrow corridors that trap warm air instead of letting it escape, low ceilings that reduce the volume of air needing heat, and rooms arranged so the warmest spaces sit deep inside, buffered by storage rooms and stairwells. Fireplaces weren't centered for beauty. They were offset to warm walls that could hold heat longer, and their chimneys were carefully angled to improve draft while minimizing heat loss. You know what's even more surprising? Beds weren't furniture, they were survival tools, raised off cold floors, packed with straw, wool, feathers, sometimes even hot stones wrapped in cloth. People slept clothed, often wearing hats under layers of blankets that trapped body heat the same way modern sleeping bags do. And here's a forgotten secret. Castles exploited time as insulation. Once warmed, those massive stone walls resisted sudden temperature drops, meaning a single good fire could keep a room survivable long after the flames died. It wasn't comfort, it was controlled discomfort, engineered just enough to keep death at bay. This is where it gets unsettling, because many modern homes fail where medieval castles succeeded. Thin walls, open-plan designs, and reliance on constant energy input mean that when power fails, heat vanishes in hours. Medieval builders planned for failure by default. You can apply this thinking today, using thermal mass like brick or stone strategically, closing off unused rooms in winter, sleeping in smaller spaces, layering textiles instead of cranking heat, even sharing body warmth during emergencies. Imagine designing a home that stays warm long after the heat source is gone, not because it's high-tech, but because it respects physics the way medieval builders did. In survival situations, during blackouts, winter storms, or off-grid living, these old methods suddenly stop feeling primitive and start feeling brilliant. They remind us that resilience isn't about comfort, it's about endurance. So, could you survive the coldest nights inside a medieval castle? Physically, maybe, but mentally, that's the real test. Medieval people accepted cold as a constant companion, not an enemy to be eliminated, and in doing so, they built environments that worked with nature instead of against it. Their castles were imperfect, uncomfortable, sometimes brutal, but they were honest structures, shaped by necessity and wisdom hard-earned through survival. And as modern systems grow more fragile, as winters become less predictable, those forgotten lessons whisper back to us through stone walls and smoky hearths, asking whether progress has made us stronger or merely more dependent. If this journey through medieval survival changed how you think about warmth, shelter, and resilience, consider sharing it, subscribing, and continuing to explore the forgotten knowledge that once kept humanity alive through its coldest nights.